Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga show, the predictions edition ahead of match day 10 in the Bundesliga 2024-25 season. And as you can see, building on from Monday, myself and Peter, who is pretty nearby me today as well, we're both in gear, aren't we, Peter, ahead of tomorrow's big match?
Absolutely, we are. And I should mention that we're even, if you'd like to go back and check on Monday's show, we're in different gear. Mark has a fresh FC Nuremberg hat on and scarf. I have a fresh Lautern hat and scarf on. Be careful not to talk too much smack about my Rote Teufel, as I will happily go into the other room and give you a big smack to the head if you offend me in some way. But good to be with you. Great to be in Nuremberg, a guest among friends, and looking forward to this evening's show.
Yeah, definitely. Peter is obviously over here in Nuremberg ahead of the match as well. So in the same building, so to speak, now ahead of this prediction weekend. So yeah, let's, without further ado, obviously myself and Peter might have our eyes on this fighter Bundesliga this year, but this weekend. But obviously today our focus is on the top flight. So let's start with the Friday evening game between FC Union Berlin and SC Freiburg. So these are two teams that started off the season pretty well, but seem to have hit a little bit of a buffer in recent weeks. Obviously, Union shockingly dropping out of the cup to third tier Bielefeld and then being schooled against Bayern Munich last weekend, and Freiburg playing out a pretty uninspiring 0-0 against Mainz last weekend. But these are two teams that are still, up in the top half, 6th against 7th. So they're both having relatively good seasons. But to be honest, this is a game that I don't see that many goals, in truth, because I just feel as though both of these sides are a little bit goal shy at the minute. We mentioned on the show on Monday that Adamu is really struggling for Freiburg at the minute. He's not scored since match day 3 against Bochum, and he's looking worse week in, week out, really, isn't he? So I do feel as though Union are probably the better team out of these sides at the minute, especially with home advantage. They were very, very good in the last home game against Frankfurt when Starker was very, very unlucky to be denied that last-minute goal, which would have been a winner against Frankfurt. So I'm going to go for the Union to put it right in this particular game and get a 1-0 home win against the Baden-Württembergers. So Peter, what are you going for?
I will absolutely agree. If I am reading the tea leaves properly from Freiburg head coach Julian Schuster's press conference, I believe that Lukas Höhler will not be replacing Junior Adamu at the lead striker position. He will instead be playing in the 10 slot. And in so doing, the idea is that you get a big target man who can sort of shift as a service striker, maybe in a 4-4-2 arrangement. It's a good plan. But Freiburg have gone very, very stale in the last few matches, I think, and they need a better tactical shakeup to be able to take out Union at the Stadion on the Alte Försterei on home turf there. Let's not forget there are plenty of Union actors who are former Freiburg players, such as Wu Yong-zhong, who could potentially get a start. And there's also Yannick Haberer, who just signed a new contract, and he was the one who helped Union with a smashing winning goal against Freiburg late last season. So a 1-0 pick is my pick exactly. We sync up right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely. So that means I'm going to let you, Peter, kick off for the Werder Bremen Holstein Kiel Northern Derby.
Well, I wish I had more tea leaves to read from Marcel Rapp's press conference. I also watched that and covered that. We were talking on Monday's show about the unique double striker set of Steven Skripski and Phil Harris. Phil Harris joining the team from FC 08 Homburg in Saarland over the offseason. So Marcel Rapp obviously has a lot of options in attack, but he's playing his cards very, very close to the vest. I don't know what sort of tactical arrangement that he's going to go for this time. I imagine that it's going to be something quite different and perhaps something that could potentially be effective against Werder Bremen. But I think I will go ahead and tip Bremen in this one. This is, of course, Ole Werner, the former Holstein Kiel coach. He should be well prepared for this match. Werner was very indignant after that loss against Gladbach last week that he did not care for what he saw on the pitch. and will most likely make some changes. He has to make some changes, as Mitchell Weiser, whom I'm not sure whether or not he got nominated for Algeria or not. Initially it was no, then it was yes, then it was no again. I don't know what's going on. I refuse to report on that until I know what's going on. But that shouldn't be a problem. He can use Köhn and Agu at the wing-back slots. And I think that you're going to see an attack probably in Jinma again, with Marvin Duksch up top and Romano Schmid below. And Romano Schmid is a very, very good player. So I'll go ahead and tip a 2-0 Werder win in this one. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, so I'll stick your tip in there for this one, Peter. But yeah, I'm very much on the same lines that I think Werder should have too much for this Holstein Kiel, admittedly improving Holstein Kiel side after last week's win over Heidenheim. But I agree with you, Peter. I think that front line of Duksch, Schmid and Njinma, even though Njinma didn't really have the best return in last week's start against Gladbach, but I feel as though this is a game that he's going to be really, looking to fill his boots, so to speak. Duksch is having a really good season. I think 4 goals and 5 assists in 9 apps. So he's getting like a goal contribution per game, which is really good numbers for him. And I just feel as though that this Bremen side will have too much for this Kiel. But I do think Kiel will get a goal. I think what we saw from them last week, and I also like Gigovic as well. I think he's a player that's impressed me. I think, Rapp has stumbled upon a team that is a lot better. I felt as though last week that was the most balanced side. They had a threat going forward, even though it's a pretty unorthodox side, as you mentioned, Peter. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win. So the same differential, but just a few more goals, which we'd love to see. But I definitely think Bremen are going to get the home win in this one. So yeah, an interesting game on Saturday afternoon in Peter's homeland, Rhineland-Pfalz as well, between Mainz and Borussia Dortmund. And, Dortmund are a team that aren't really looking that much better, in truth. I watched the game against Sturm Graz and I thought they were dreadful, to be honest, in that match. Really, I just felt it was against a very ordinary Graz side in my eyes. And they struggled to win. It was a kind of lucky goal that pretty much, when I first saw the goal that was given, I thought Guirassy was offside. I thought it was going to get called back, but they got a bit of luck on that one. It was pretty much dead level. And they got over the line with a 1-0. But in general, it's still not looking that good. I mean, Bayer didn't really back up his performance against Leipzig with another great performance in this particular match against Graz. So there's still a few question marks on him, whether he'll start on the right wing or not. And in general, it's just not looking that great for them. The 2 up and down. Will we see Gross again in the same position? He played at right back last week, let's not forget. And I just feel as though Emre Can in centre half, he's always an accident waiting to happen for me. So I'm going to go for my first kind of shock of the weekend. Even though Mainz haven't really torn it up this season, I think they're going to get a draw from this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Peter, are you on the same lines?
Well, that's a very, very fair tip, I have to say. When it comes to Dortmund, when the expectations are nil, they tend to bottle it. And when they seem to have trouble competing against teams that they should be able to compete easily against. I think it's a psychological thing at this point after 12 years of the Dortmund roller coaster. I will disagree on this one. I think that Emre Can in central defense, he's had 2 strong games back-to-back. And I am a little concerned who's going to play fullback because Bensebaini is suspended, and I don't think Ryerson is going to be fit in time. But the 4-1-4-1 that we've seen from Nuri Sahin in the last 2 matches, both of them victories, there's a lot to be said about those. I think that Felix Nemecha, as sort of the pincer holding 6 in that particular tactical construct, has been quite strong. He's been rewarded with a call up to the German national team under Bundestrainer Julian Nagelsmann, as has Julian Brandt, whom I think should have featured for Germany in the Euros, should have been called back to the German national team much sooner. He's just that kind of great, versatile player. His positioning right behind Jamie Bino Gittens in the setup really, really works very well, as does Maximilian Bayer sort of playing out wide on the wing opposite Jamie Gittens. That's not something that you would think would work out well, but it did. When it comes to Mainz, I think we saw another rather poor match from them last weekend. Stefan Bell was great as the anchor in that back three. He is Stefan Boss Bell, as Bo Henriksen likes to call him. But I think that, we're still having some serious problems in attack. Jonny Burkhardt is actually, he was a surprise starter last week. He probably, we were all shocked to see that he made it back from that injury that he incurred in the Gladbach match so quickly. And it was agreed upon that he would only play 45 minutes. And I think you're going to see the same thing this time around. I don't know why the Mainzer attack is not really clicking, because Armindo Sieb and Jae Sung Lee are very good players as buttressing support attackers. But it isn't clicking. Perhaps the tactics are just a bit too simple. Perhaps, and we've brought this up on the pod before, Henriksen is just this sort of magic motivator who's not really doing the nitty-gritty work on the training pitch. So as much as I expect to be proven wrong about this, I will go ahead and tip Dortmund for the 2-1 away victory. Of course, Dortmund do not play well away from home, and Mainz do not play well at home. This is going against the grain a little bit here, but I think that we've definitely observed that there's a lot that Nuri Sahin's Dortmund can build upon after the last two matches, and I think they go into the international break with their third consecutive win on the trot.
Yeah. And then Ballum as well has checked in as well, and he's ready for Peter's analysis on the VfL Bochum's tactics as well. Obviously, Peter has taught Bochum up a lot this season, so he's still yet to prove that they're a good team. So we'll have to see. And can they grind out a 1-1 draw? Over to you, Peter, to tell us, can they grind out a 1-1 draw in this one?
Well, great to see you, Ballum. We've had a surprise for you in store for a little while. It's been deferred, but rest assured it is still coming. And I appreciate the compliments on our hats as well, as Mark and I are very, very happy to be. We're just ecstatic to be going to Lauter Nuremberg tomorrow. Bochum have a new trainer. Mark and I had our spot of fun with Dieter Hecking on Monday's pod. I personally watched his presser as well to look if I could get some nuggets for anything. But it was really just a presser in which he deflected all of the questions and answered. I think there was one question he spent 3 minutes answering, and he gave me absolutely no information, nothing that I can really use. Of course, they were asking him if he would allow Manuel Riemann back, and all he could say was that he couldn't read the future. Mark would probably be very pleased to have Manuel Riemann back, as he has a personal vendetta against Patrick Drew, as the former Calais keeper believes he's probably...
Who doesn't, let's be honest.
Well, I can tell you what he needs to do in order, and he said the right things at his presser, Hecking did. He said that he wants players playing in the positions where they are the most comfortable. And what we had with Peter Zeidler was he was playing Danny De Witt far too back. He was playing Ibrahima Sissoko way too far back. And then under this interim trainer, Feldhof, I believe his name was, he overcorrected and was playing De Witt as a second striker alongside Philipp Hofmann. And Sissoko, I believe, was in a 6-6 setup. In any case, it's been a disaster for Bochum, as we knew that it would be. They released Zeidler after the Hoffenheim loss. Since then, they've lost 5-0 to Bayern at home and 7-2 to Frankfurt last weekend. Now they're facing the defending champions, who have made a habit out of drawing in the league this season, not to mention wholly disappointing in the Champions League, as they did midweek. But the right rotation should be enforced for Xabi Alonso. And I think that with time, Hecking can probably build upon the right system. Now, what is the right system, you may ask? I think Danny De Witt needs to be at the 8. I would like to see Hoffmann and Brzezinski in a double striker set. I think that Sissoko should manage the midfield alone. Now that Vitek is out, we have our Filipino typhoon, Gerrit Holtmann, who can smash some speed records and perhaps even produce some pretty plays, although his defending is not always the greatest. I don't think it comes down to, and I want a back four too, please, for the love of God, just give me a back four. Give me a back four with Masovic, Ordic, Paslak and I guess Holtmann could play as a fullback in this setup. Maybe even put Lucia there as a bolt lock sweeper. Can he get it together this early against the defending champions? I do not believe so. I personally do not believe so. My tip is going to be a 4-0 win for Leverkusen.
Yeah, I think we've had some pretty cruel tips against Bochum in recent weeks. But to be fair, you got the 5-0. I think you tipped the 5-0 last time we did Bochum at home, didn't you, against Bayern Munich? So, yeah, stick your money on that. I think even Peter's given up on Bochum now, and that's saying a lot. But yeah, I mean, if the Bochum Messi, I remember a few years ago they called the Filipino typhoon Gerrit Holtmann the Bochum Messi when he scored that amazing goal against Mainz. I think it was in Bochum's first season back. And it literally looked like one of Messi's prime goals. So if he can pull that out the hat again, then maybe they might have a chance. But let's be honest, it's unlikely at this stage. And as you say, it's not really a good fixture for Hecking to be going into as his first game, because Leverkusen they've not been as good as last season, but they're still a strong team at the end of the day. And surely they're going to have too much for this Bochum side. Probably I think the problem with Leverkusen is they've not found a partner for Wirtz as well in that kind of Christmas tree formation. So they play Boniface as a 9, and then Terrier is disappointed a little bit for me. Last week they tried Frimpong, and that worked okay, but maybe he's not quite got the finishing for that kind of position. So it'd be interesting to see who he goes there. Obviously, Adli is injured for quite a period of time, so it's going to be interesting to see who he goes for alongside Florian Wirtz in that attacking midfield role. But they should still have way too much. I'm not quite going to go 4-0, Peter, but I had a 3-0 written down for this one, so a little bit more promising for Hecking and the boys from the Vonovia Stadion. But I can't see them getting the first win or even the second point in this particular game. So let's move on to, for me, probably the game of the weekend, really. This is the one that stood out as the most exciting game of the weekend. It's impressive St. Pauli against even more impressive Bayern Munich at the minute. And these are two of the teams that have really impressed me this season for different reasons, obviously, and at different ends of the tables. But I just feel as though Pauli have really been a lot better than what their points total suggests. And I just think, they've got so many good players in there, the likes of Troy, Afolayan. We mentioned obviously Jackson Irvine, who's the one that's stealing all the headlines really at the minute. But it's a good, solid squad. They run a lot. They come at the top for kilometers run and all that kind of thing. So it's a hard-working team, a pressing team. And for me, this is actually a game that could be a bit of a banana skin for the high-flying Bayern Munich. Obviously, a team that have basically rolled everyone over in the Bundesliga for months now, really. The entire international, since the last international break, they've won every game easily without conceding a goal. So it is going to be a hard task. And obviously, St. Pauli haven't scored at home. Let's not forget that as well. But I mean, will we see Leroy Sané start after his excellent cameo? Probably Olize's worst performance for Bayern against Benfica. He was hooked, and Sané came on and got a great pre-assist in that game. So everything going right for Vincent Kompany's men at the minute for another impressive performance in the win over Benfica. But this is going to be a big shock to some people, because I've just got a feeling this game, the rock and roll of St. Pauli on the Reeperbahn against the glitz and the glam of FC Hollywood Bayern Munich, it's just got that feel of an upset, this one. And I'm not quite going to go for a Pauli win, but I am going to go for a 2-2 draw in this one. I think Pauli are going to upset the Rekordmeister. What do you think, Peter?
Sounds like man. I hope they're right. I really do. We've not yet seen St. Pauli score a Tor at the Milan Tor this season. They have not scored a home goal yet, and this one, of course, is a mismatch on paper. Pauli, every time they seem to get some momentum and be able to move forward, they get hit with an injury. And in this case, left wingback Philip Troy is hurt and won't be able to participate. I think Ritzke can probably step in just fine. One reason why we could see this potential 2-2 draw, and one reason why I'm maybe talking myself into gravitating towards your tip, is that the Bayern defensive line is incredibly high. I think I was reading an article about the statistics. I forgot how many meters it is, but it is something of a Bundesliga record. The average distance that Vincent Kompany's back four go from the goal line on this very high and energetic press. So there could be an opportunity for St. Pauli to break through with their strong 3-4-3 in this instance. I still don't think we can see a draw here. I think we're going to see the first goal at the Millantor, and that would be so very nice. But I will go for Bayern 3-1, maybe a little bit like like the FC Union Berlin match, but the Bayern Union Berlin match from last week, where it's kind of a workmanlike victory, for Bayern in the end, and maybe not much to write home about, but. At least the scoreline will make it seem a little bit closer. That's my hope.
Yeah, I think the counterattacks were one of the things I thought as well, because Bayern have been susceptible on the counter because they're playing such a high line, and we saw against Frankfurt that they conceded 3 goals on the counter in that one. But obviously Frankfurt do have a lot more quality than Pauli, and also in the midfield to get the ball. So it will be a big ask, but I'm confident. I'm confident, guys. So go on, Peter. You can lead us on for another interesting top spiel between Leipzig and improving Gladbach.
Well, it was a couple weeks back on the prediction show that I went ahead and took the liberty of looking up the last time that Borussia Mönchengladbach were able to win back-to-back games. And one has to go back 2.5 years to see this happen. Now, of course, Leipzig are struggling as well. The Champions League schedule has been so brutal that they've been, and they were beaten down and humbled this week yet again. When we talk about Leipzig, it's so very difficult to forecast what sort of team is going to show up at this juncture, because that win over Freiburg was actually a title contender's performance. If you look at all of the individual players in what Germans would call the Einzelkritik, the critique of every individual player, there wasn't a poor player on the pitch. So it's at home. It's at the Red Bull Arena. Gladbach are known for being inconsistent. One of the reasons that they don't win back-to-back matches is because Seoane is a little bit too much of a tinkerer. I think that Rose's men have the quality to get back on winning track here. I'm hoping for a 5-goal Topspiel. I'll go for 3-2 for the German Red Bulls.
Yeah, this was a difficult one for me, to be honest, because I just feel as though Leipzig have lost their way a little bit, and I just think the last 2 performances have been underwhelming. Really, obviously we talked in detail about the game against Dortmund, where they were pretty much outplayed and outfought, really, and it was a similar story against Celtic as well. But I mean, they shouldn't be getting beat so easily by a team like Celtic. Respect to Celtic, they were brilliant on the night, and the atmosphere there at Celtic Park was, wow, really impressive. But it was a pretty humbling defeat, as you say, in a game that Leipzig had to win, really. Ballum says, is Marco Rose the problem with the bad tactics? I don't know. I don't think he's a major problem, but I think there's a few off-form players in that squad for me, and we've maligned Šeško a few times this season, and he's just not had a good season for me at all. That's my honest opinion. I think Openda has still been good. Maybe not quite hit the heights of last season, but he's still had a lot of touches and nice assists and things like that. And I actually think Gladbach, they'll see it as an opportunity. It's probably a bit much to say they're going to win, as you say, after Peter admitted that 2.5 years since back-to-back wins, which is a staggering stat for a team like Borussia Mönchengladbach. But I still believe they're going to get a point in this game to further derail Leipzig's title challenge. If my predictions are right, then obviously Bayern could have dropped points already earlier in the day, but I'm also going to go for Leipzig to drop points in a 1-1 draw in this one. I just feel as though Gladbach are improving. Kleindienst has been an absolute revelation. He's a player that we've rated for a long time on this show, but what he's delivered for Gladbach on a consistent basis has been very impressive. And will we see Stöger back in the team? Probably not after Player's excellent performance last week. But, they've got quality off the bench as well to bring on. I can see them getting a 1-1 draw against misfiring Leipzig at the minute. So yeah, but I'm going to put your score up, Peter, because it looks better, basically, the 3-2. So yeah, I'm going to lead on my beloved Bavarian brothers, FC Augsburg, against TSG Hoffenheim. So this is another one that Augsburg will be looking to win at home, because we've talked a lot that they are one hell of a good home side, are FC Augsburg. And, they like to dominate teams at home. The likes of Onyeka, the machine, has been very, very impressive, particularly at the VVK Arena. Claude Maurice is the latest one that's getting the plaudits, and rightly so, because he looks like a real technical, excellent player that adds a bit of quality to that gritty Augsburg side. I think obviously Schlotterbeck, I believe, is going to be back in the team, which is important because he's massive for that defense. I think Labrovic surprisingly kept his place last week. I mean, I thought after the clean sheet against Schalke in the Cup that Finn Darman had come back in, but for whatever reason, it seems Torp really likes Labrovic and doesn't fancy Darman for whatever reason. But that could be an issue, because I do believe he's got a mistake in him, Labrovic, and he has a pretty poor shot to save ratio as well. One of the worst in the league, I believe. As for Hoffenheim, I mean, they play Lyon tonight, which is going to be one hell of a hard game as well, against a strong French team. Things just aren't really looking good at the Turnen Sportgemeinschaft, are they? I mean, it's just they had that little turnaround, didn't they? But last week was pretty bleak, to be honest, in a poor performance at home against St. Pauli. And I'm going to go for them to lose this game as well against the Augsburg side, who mostly win at home. I think it's going to be a 2-1 FC Augsburg win. Peter?
Yes, I will agree precisely with that scoreline and that tip. That was actually our second watch along you and I did together.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it seems a long time ago.
Well, it was a long time ago. It was It was 2.5 years ago. Excuse me. That was 2023. It was 1.5 years ago. I think that's a fair tip. Hoffenheim, every time you think that they're turning a corner, every time it looks like Arthur Chavez is ready for this level, every time it seems like Matarazzo has his attack figured out, something goes wrong. Chavez has a dip. The midfield wobbles based on some squad rotations. Stach has one of his poor games out of position. Matarazzo can't figure out which striker he wants to go with on any given day. Of course, we've entered the realm of the Europa League teams, or the European teams who are in action right now. And it is 24 minutes in between Hoffenheim and Olympique Lyon there at the Prezero Arena in Sinsheim. Still no score. Morstedt and Tahomshu and Kramaric are spearheading the attacking trident. I just don't think Matarazzo has the answers quite yet. And I think that some of his public criticism of Hlocek, which you've made lots of public criticisms of Hlocek as well, are going to be very counterproductive. There needs to be some stability in attack in this team. And the American trainer is not helping out matters with all of his jawboning. So, yes, we'll go with the Bavarian Swabians here. Schöne Stadt. Ugerstätte, and it's a good tip from you, Mark. An excellent tip. 2-1 is good.
Yeah. And then go on, Peter. I'll let you start on probably the game that's going to get most of the attention this weekend between Stuttgart and Frankfurt.
Oh, absolutely. This is the tip of the weekend. I've kind of made a little bit of a habit on this prediction show of giving a shout out to the Bully News Sunday match reporter, Olson Kokoran. I'm jealous that he gets a chance to cover this match. Hopefully it won't be sandwiched in between a couple of sleepier affairs from the Sunday triple header. But, oh, Lord, this is a very, very, very tasty special. Stuttgart, of course, were not able to overcome Ademola Lookman in the Champions League. The former Leipzig man, just makes a habit out of embarrassing German footballing sides whenever he gets a chance. Good for him. But they still looked an exciting team in many respects. Chris Führich is very, very hungry to get that starting slot back from Jamie Leveling, now that Leveling has been ruled out injured for a long time. And we saw some great performances off the bench from Pascal Stenzel, and also this new kid. I don't think he's going to feature in the Bundesliga. He plays for VfB 2. We might have even seen him when we went to go see the Stuttgart Kickers. No, I don't think so. I don't think he was there yet. I forgot his name already, but he came off the bench in the Champions League fixture that I was covering last night, and unleashed a real rocket into the side netting. That was really, really cool. Stuttgart, incredibly talented side, but Frankfurt are the talk of German football circles at the moment. This is an incredibly exciting team. What they did last week against Bochum with all of those squad rotations, with Nathaniel Brown, with Namdi Collins, with Jean-Michel Boya, with Kanozun, with Mo Dahoud and everything. And they have also pulled off a relegation, or a Europa League 1-0 victory this evening. Heavy metal football is back in Germany's commercial capital. It really is. And Topmüller has all of these options to turn to, and everybody's excited. The team is gelling. Omar Marmoush cannot stop scoring and putting on the Joker mask and doing really cool things in the spirit of Halloween and all of this. If I'm wrong about this, I'm going to be so mad with myself. I really am. But I am tipping a 6-goal thriller, a 3-3 draw, an absolute tit for tat, with tons of all sorts of exciting adjustments, in-game adjustments for tactical fans. I invite everybody to come check out this one on Sunday, the middle game. And Mark, tell me why I'm wrong. You can play devil's advocate, perhaps, or maybe you agree.
To be honest, I wish I could do that, Peter, but I actually am on a similar line to you. I had a good think about this game earlier, and I just feel as though both teams are in good form still, even though VfB were obviously beaten by Atalanta. But Atalanta are an excellent team, let's be honest. Like they've been a thorn in the Bundesliga team's sides for a long time, and they are the masters of strong defense and counter-attack football, basically. And I did have a bad feeling for Stuttgart. I just didn't feel as though it was a good matchup, that game, against such a strong defensive team. But Frankfurt aren't such a strong defensive team, thankfully, but they are a very, very strong attacking team, as you say. And I feel as though, they've been probably, after Bayern Munich, the best attacking team in the league by a distance this year. And as you say, Marmoush just is the gift that keeps giving at the minute. He's just unbelievable. Like twice a week, he plays every single game and pretty much scores in almost all of them, and often multiple goals as well. So, he's going to be a worry for the VfB back line, who have not really caught fire this season for me, in truth. I believe Chabot will be back for this game, will he? Because I think he got sent off against Kiel, missed the game against Leverkusen, but actually they looked a little bit better defensively, ironically, without Chabot. So maybe Chabot, it could be the weakness in that side after all. I'm also going to go for a draw in this game, though. I just feel as though it's the kind of game where the lead's going to change a number of times, and neither side is quite going to be solid enough to see through a victory in this one. But I agree that it's going to be a good game to watch. But I've gone for a 2-2 draw, but I wouldn't be surprised to see your tip come in at 3-3, Peter, as well. And it's definitely one to watch on Sunday afternoon, this one. So, let's start with one that probably isn't one that's going to get the pulse racing as much as the previous fixture between Heidenheim and Wolfsburg. Two sides who are, let's just say, not scoring many goals at all, basically, at the minute. It's a different Heidenheim side this season compared to last year. I just feel as though they've not really got it going forward at times. As I mentioned before, Pieringer, I'm not convinced as a number 9, a top-level number 9, really. Vanner has been good, but he's still a young man. He's going to have bad games, and last week won one of his finer games against Kiel. I'm not sure whether he started tonight against Heart of Midlothian, but I think they need him for this game because Heidenheim need a win, really, to be honest. They have only won one of the last 7 after opening up with 2 wins at the start of the season. So this is a game that they will be targeting a win against a Wolfsburg side who they always disappoint, basically, don't they? I think this is going to be like their 4th season in a row, which is just very, very underwhelming. Truth, despite having a quality packed squad with really expensive, excellent players like Lovro, Meyer, Amora, Kevin Behrens even, Jonas Wind, but they just can't get a team that scores on a regular basis and sees through games. And even if they do get that goal, they rarely see it out. That's the problem. So this one might not be a popular tip amongst the faithful, but I don't often tip this scoreline, but I am going to go for the dreaded 0-0 to finish off the weekend. Peter?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. I did read a very interesting article in the Sportbild this week about what's wrong with Wolfsburg. And then after I read it, I realized I didn't need to read this article. I know exactly what's wrong with Wolfsburg. It's the fact that Ralf Hasenhüttl, just like so many previous trainers before him, has a squad that is not very well balanced, and he's rotating a lot. He's rotated more than any other top-flight Bundesliga head coach this season. And they can't quite get, automatisms or an identity in. Heidenheim, Hearts, we may have to give that game a scout a little bit. I was just having a look at the starting lineup, and Luca Kerber is working a split stagger with Leonard Maloney in midfield, I presume. And I'd totally forgotten who Luca Kerber was. I think I might have written the article on his signing, but I don't remember who he was. I guess, presumably, I guess he came from Saarbrücken. When Heidenheim got off to such a flying start this year, me and Rory were talking about how this is just, we can see the signs about how this is not sustainable. We can see that there's a lot of excitement among the new recruits, and they did do some excellent recruiting in the offseason to put together a squad that on paper looks like it stands a fighting chance. But the signs were definitely there that it was not it was not the team, as you so often say, not the team that existed last year. It's a significant downgrade at most every position from the team that existed last year. You don't have Jan-Niklas Best in the squad. Kleindienst is gone. We can rattle off the whole laundry list. Interestingly, though, these two trainers, Frank Schmidt and Ralf Hasenhüttl, they have quite a bit of a history because Schmidt has been in charge of Heidenheim since 2007. And Hasenhüttl met him both in the Zweite Bundesliga and the Dritte Liga. Hasenhüttl, you may recall, was once the coach of Ingolstadt, one of the clubs that Mark and I visited in our Bavarian Wiesenheit weekend tour. And he was also in Aachen. So these two guys know one another. I think that they probably put a lot of thought into their match day planning. You can see that the Heidenheim side that's lining up against Hearts this evening is not Schmidt's first choice squad. Bräunig is starting at striker. Beck is at 10. Conte and Kaufmann are on the wings, so he's going to bring his better players in. I don't know if that makes much of a difference, to be honest with you. And with Jonas Wind out, I think he's questionable with a hip contusion. It probably looks to be the case that Amora is going to be the only reliable attacking force in the Wolfsburg attack. Although, I mean, Baku can be dangerous when he wants to be on that right wing. I just don't think it's going to come together for Wolfsburg, and I hope that we don't see Kevin Behrens, because then you probably really much know that there's not going to be any goals scored. If you see him in the starting 11, just turn the television off. Go do something else. Hopefully the weather's nice Sunday afternoon. No and wasting your finite life with this game.
Yeah, maybe we just need Sir Lord on the pitch to change everything around. Sir Lord. We need a bit more of him, and then we might to get him over. But he also seems to have dropped off a cliff, really. I mean, he started off brilliantly, didn't he? Like, broke the speed record, but since then it seems to have been a good month or two since we heard anything from him. So we'll have to see, but it is looking a little bit bleak for Heidenheim. My fear for them was always the European football, really. I always felt as though it was going to be a step too far. I mean, it's a small squad that they lost so many key players, and I just feel as though the squad simply isn't big enough, and they lost too much natural quality to compete. And I think if they stay up this year, even if they finish 15th, it's been a good season for them, really, because they need to build a strong Bundesliga team again. I think, but it's going to be hard for them as such a small club. I mean, who wakes up in the morning and says, "I want to play for Heidenheim"? Let's be honest. It's so it is tough for them, and I think they went too far too quick. I honestly just don't think they were ready for European football, but we'll see anyway. And a point wouldn't be such a bad result after all here against big spending Wolfsburg. So yeah, let's have a look at the table just before we finish, guys. So if mine and Peter's combined table is correct, then we actually have both. Actually, Leipzig would gain points on Munich because obviously I went for a Bayern draw. Leverkusen would also gain a little bit of ground with Frankfurt making up the top 4 and Union Berlin continuing their excellent season in 5th. At the bottom, it's very much as you were. Actually, we tip all of the bottom 3 to lose the games this weekend, but St. Pauli and Wolfsburg and even Mainz, according to my prediction, potentially gaining important points in the race to avoid the playoff spot. So yeah, Peter, what's your tip then? While we're doing a tip prediction show, we've got to finish off with the big tip of the weekend for us, haven't we? I mean, obviously we're wearing the clothes for it, so we've got to do it. FCN, FCK, 2 high-flying fighter Bundesliga teams at the minute. What's going to happen? What's the score going to be?
When it comes to matches that we are attending in person, my tips don't count for anything. Irina is the sorceress. She's the one who always gets the tips correct.
That is true.
Yes, true. But I will go for a 2-1 FCK victory away from home, contrary to every fiber in my every logical fiber in my head. I'm going to use the right side of my brain this time and say FCK.
Yeah, for me, we all know that I'm the bad luck charm for FCN, and we know that I have a bad record in this fixture too, since me and Peter have been doing it. I think we can count it as 2-0 because the draw doesn't count, but basically in 3 games, Peter's boys have won 2, and we've had 1 draw in the league in the corresponding fixture last season. But I'm going to go for an FCN win. I just think the air has changed in Upper Bavaria at the minute in Franconia, and things are looking good under Miro Klose. But I think it's going to be an entertaining game. After the last Nuremberg home game was 8-3 when I wasn't in the stadium, by the way. I'm going to go for a 3-2 club win for my first win over Peter's boys since we've been doing this series. So enjoy the weekend, guys. We'll enjoy the live match and also the televised games as well. And see you on Monday on the other side of the weekend. Ciao, ciao, guys.